Maybe even more perfect than this gorgeous makeup.
I'm sexy and I know it.
Hello mortals, I am the BookTube Goddess, the #1 drag queen booktuber on YouTube. I wanted to do a holiday video, and there's one holiday story that I absolutely love, and that is A Christmas Carol. Now, I love Charles Dickens, but it's been a long time since I've read Dickens.
I mean a long time.
In this video, I am going to first describe the written version of the story that Dickens wrote, and then I'm going to go through and rate my top 10 versions of A Christmas Carol. So I went to Project Gutenberg and downloaded the free version of A Christmas Carol for my Kindle. And this is a very short story, under 30,000 words, and you can read it in about 2 hours, which is about as long as some of the movie versions. Now, I forgot how fun it is to read Dickens.
Did I mention I haven't read Dickens in a long time?
Now, this is written in the second person.
You heard me, the second person.
Though the narrator is invisible and rarely mentions you, the reader, me, the reader, sometimes the narrator does address you, like saying, "The ghost was as close to Scrooge as I am to you, and I am in spirit at your elbow." The writing has a strong, fun voice, making the story read like a fable. Some of the expository writing can be a bit long-winded.
Won't lie.
Like long, drawn-out descriptions of food and setting, but that's Dickens, and the writing itself flows nicely. Oh, by the way, this video will have spoilers. In case you've never heard the story of A Christmas Carol, and if you've not heard it before, are you an alien? By the way, even though this is a Christmas story, it is an extremely secular Christmas story. In fact, some of the versions of A Christmas Carols, especially the older ones, are much more religious than the original story. There is not one mention of Jesus or the birth of Christ or anything like that. None of that is in the original Dickens classic, which is kind of interesting, no. My favorite ghost in the book may be the ghost of Christmas Past, which hasn't really ever been done as Dickens wrote it. But the ghost was the size of a child, but was obviously an older adult with white hair and an ageless face. In other words, the ghost was a composite of old and young, and it had a light that shone out of its head. The ghost flickered, sometimes had one arm or leg, and sometimes had many arms and legs. And the ghost was very specific to say that he wasn't the ghost of the long past, but of Scrooge's past. At the end of the visit with the first ghost, Scrooge saw that the ghost's face was a composite of everyone he had seen in the past. And when the memories of the past got too much for Scrooge, he put a cap over the ghost's head to douse the light, or to stifle the memories. Now, the ghost of Christmas Present also isn't usually done how Dickens wrote him, insofar that this ghost only lives one day, and at the end of the visit, Scrooge sees that it's now an old man. Another interesting thing about the original is Bob Cratchit isn't mentioned by name until halfway through the story during the Ghost of Christmas Present. Before then, he's just described as Scrooge's clerk. So let's talk about the structure of the story. If you are a writer, you should appreciate that this is a perfect 5-act structure. Maybe even more perfect than this gorgeous makeup.
I'm sexy and I know it.
Okay, maybe that's not such a high bar. The story is broken apart into 5 parts or 5 staves. The first part sets up the complication, which is Marley's ghost. Then the next 3 parts are the Ghost of Christmas Past, which is a flashback, obviously. Then the Ghost of Christmas Present, then the Ghost of Christmas Future, which ends with the climax where Scrooge realizes he will die and be damned. The last part, the 5th part, is the resolution, the denouement. Scrooge has changed his heart, and it ends as we know it ends. So I decided to read the story simultaneously while watching the 1951 version of the movie, which is considered one of the best Christmas Carol movies. And if I agree with that, I'll let you know in a bit. But basically, I'd read the first part of the story and then watch the first part of the movie and went back and forth like that. And the movie was very loyal to the book, but had to expand some parts to flesh out the story to a full-length movie. And there are some nice nods in this version to Dicken's original, like the dogs of blind beggars would sense Scrooge's miserliness and lead the beggars out of Scrooge's path. Of course, nowadays the story of A Christmas Carol is known mainly through the movies, which interpret, update, and otherwise retell the story. And just for whatever reason, maybe it's nostalgia, I can't help watching them all. So here is quickly my top 10 versions of A Christmas Carol. Number 10 are any of the animated versions of A Christmas Carol. Probably the best one is Disney's Mickey's Mouse, but I've also seen Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. I've seen the Flintstones Christmas Carol. And I don't think they're that successful because I don't get very emotionally attached to cartoon characters. I don't think they're very successful. I've never found them as fun or moving as live action versions. They just don't have the gravitas of having a live actor. But I mention them because it is kind of fun watching characters you know act out A Christmas Carol. Number 9 is the 2003 version called A Carol Christmas, starring Tori Spelling as a talk show host named Carol. Thus the name of the story changes, A Christmas Carol to A Carol Christmas. Get it? Get it? Now this is not a good movie, except it's kind of fun watching Tori Spelling ham it up in her role, and it's always fun to have a gender switch. This version I can't call successful, but it is campy and stupid and enjoyable to kind of hate watch.
Oh, I just washed my hands and I have this funny thing about touching people. I know. It's something else I gotta work on. I tell you what, grab a hold of this Santa suit. It's a rental. It should be okay.
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
Number 8 is a Doctor Who episode called A Christmas Carol. It was in 2005. It is the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith. And if you don't know who the Doctor is, The Doctor is a British sci-fi series that's been around since the dawn of time.
Which means before even I was born.
And it's about a time traveler. So saying this episode is an adaptation of A Christmas Carol is extremely generous. It's more like the pages of A Christmas Carol may have been used to fan the writers of the episode. But I do like the episode. It has very little to do with Dickens' original, except it involves a miserly, bitter old man, a Scrooge-like figure. He basically won't save a ship entering his planet's atmosphere, so the Doctor goes back in time, and it involves a flying shark. Really? A flying shark?
So, little fella, what do you eat?
How little? Can I come out?
A woman in stasis who has only one day to live, and the Doctor travels back to the past to tweak the old man's life to make him more compassionate in the future. In other words, it's A Christmas Carol only in name, but I did tear up a little bit at the end of this episode, and it's a ridiculous, fun, and moving story. Number 7 is the 1984 version of A Christmas Carol with George C. Scott, because George C. Scott. If you don't know who he is, he won the Academy Award playing Patton in the movie of the same name. He was also in one of my favorite adaptations of Beauty and the Beast, and he played the Beast. This was a very serious rendition of A Christmas Carol, closely following the original story, but it is really dry. I mean, really dry. There's no humor or whimsy or sparkle to it, but it's a decent movie. Number 6 is The Muppet Christmas Carol from 1992 with Michael Caine. Now, what I said about animations also applies here because I just cannot get that emotionally invested in Muppets and take them seriously. But the main character of Scrooge is played by Michael Caine, and so he lends a little more seriousness to the role. But it's a little absurd watching him play the role of Scrooge straight with the entire supporting cast as Muppets.
Yes, Mr. Cratchit.
If you please, Mr. Scrooge, the bookkeeping staff would like to have an extra shovel full of coal for the fire.
Our assets are frozen! How would the bookkeepers like to be suddenly unemployed?
Heat wave! Oi! This is my island in the sun.
But I do love the Muppets, and this is funny and cute and iconic. Number 5 is A Diva's Christmas Carol, the 2000 version starring Vanessa Williams. This is the campiest version of A Christmas Carol yet. It's another gender swap with Ebenezer Scrooge as Ebony Scrooge, a black singer who used to be the lead singer in a girl group, but steps on the other girls to become a solo artist. If this sounds like the plot of Dreamgirls, yeah, it is. The Ghost of Christmas Past is played by Kathy Griffin, and the Ghost of Christmas Present is James Taylor from Duran Duran. The movie wouldn't be anything without Vanessa Williams as the diva who devours the scenery.
I better eat something soon. I am tripping.
Yeah, I'm kind of a klutz myself. Hey, look what time it is.
Did you see what... Let me guess. You're the first spirit?
Was it the dress?
I hope you know you're not getting a tip.
Number 4, Ms. Scrooge, the 1997 version starring Cicely Tyson. And this is another gender and race swap with the original version. In this one, Scrooge is named Ebenezer Scrooge. And this is all about Cicely Tyson, who is an incredible actress. The story is played straight and serious, just with the gender role swaps. And Marley, or Maud Marley, is played by another of my favorite actresses, Katherine Hellman, who you may know from Soap or Brazil or Time Bandits.
Market. It opened with a sudden climb of 57 points, but reversed itself by noon and plunged 86 points. However, by closing time, the market was within 2 points of where it started.
2 points up and down.
As for gold...
I always did like a big entrance, didn't I? How's tricks, Ebenezer?
Maud?
You haven't said a word about my outfit.
Oh, can't be Maud. She's dead. I buried her.
And rather hastily, I might add. Afraid I might come back to life? Reclaim my possessions? Now I can't.
No!
That line is dead, darling. Save us both time, Ebenezer. I'm dead. I'm here. And I'm talking to you.
Number 3 is a 1951 version, which I talked about before. It's what I watched while reading the original Dicken story. And this is considered probably the most faithful adaptation, but it certainly is the one which all the other adaptations are inspired by. Even so, it had to embellish The Ghost of Christmas Past, as I think I said before, to make it a full-length movie.
Merry Christmas to you anyway, Uncle.
Good evening.
And a Happy New Year.
Good evening. Humbug!
Number 2 is Scrooge, the 1970 version starring Albert Finney and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Or I mean Alec Guinness. Now this is a musical, and if you hate musicals, you won't like this, but this is a movie from my childhood. I remember watching it every year. And Albert Finney is an incredible actor. He was in his 30s when he made this movie, but you are convinced he's an old man in his 60s or 70s. And not because of any hardcore prosthetic makeup, but just with regular theater makeup and acting. The way he walks and contorts his face and talks, it's amazing. The movie is colorful, it's rich, it's funny. The only weird part is the ending that really drags out because the Ghost of Christmas Future shows Scrooge what it's like to be in hell. And he's greeted by Marley and he gets fitted with his chains. Honestly, I think this was done because they hired Alec freaking Guinness for a small role of Marley, and they wanted to make sure they used him as much as they could.
I should have thought it was obvious. I heard you were coming down today, so I thought I'd come to greet you, show you to your quarters. Nobody else wanted to.
Anyway, I love this version of A Christmas Carol. Number 1 may surprise you, but it is Scrooge, the 1988 version starring Bill Murray. This movie I can watch over and over, and I have watched over and over. Bill Murray, in my opinion, is one of the greatest comic actors we've ever had, better even than Steve Martin. I think The Spy Who Knew Too Little is the funniest movie ever made. I'll never laugh so much watching a movie until that one. Why no one talks about it, I don't know. But Bill Murray's genius is having this iconic character, which you first saw as a lounge singer, which he developed for Saturday Night Live skits.
Thank you very much. I always open with a little something by a guy named Richard Strauss called 2001. Welcome to the Powder Room, everybody, up here at beautiful Meatloaf Mountain. I'm Nick Winters, and I'm here to entertain you, so sit back, have a hot buttered rum, and let it happen.
And this skeevy, pathetic character with little talent, who thinks he has a lot of talent, makes him hilarious, believable, and against all odds, likable. See Groundhog Day, for an example. Anyway, this is a story in a story. Bill Murray plays a television executive producing the most offensive version of A Christmas Carol you can imagine.
IBC presents live via satellite from New York, Bethlehem, Helsinki, West Berlin, and the Great Barrier Reef, Charles Dickens' immortal Christmas classic, Scrooge, starring Buddy Hackett, Jamie Farr, the Solid Gold Dancers, and Mary Lou Retton as Tiny Tim. Hosted by Sir John Houseman. Scrooge. Humbug. It will touch your every heartstring. That's right. It all starts on Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve on IBC. You'll love it.
Oh my gosh. Does that suck?
So it's a show within a show, and it skewers commercialism and sensationalism of Christmas. And this movie can be really dark at times, but I think it's crazy funny. And there's Carol Caine as the Ghost of Christmas Present, and she is hilarious. One of the best characters in this movie besides Bill Murray.
Hello, Frank. I'm the Ghost of Christmas Present.
I had a funny feeling. Why did you do that?
Sometimes you have to slap them in the face just to get their attention.
Fine. Slap me in the face. But you kicked me in the balls.
Hush, Frank. It's time to begin our journey. Now, close your eyes.
If you've never seen Scrooged, you're really missing out. So that's my top 10 list of Dickens' Christmas Carol adaptations. Do you agree with my list? Is there another version that should be in the top 10? Let me know in the comments below. Of course, the Dickens original classic is great and certainly gets my blessing. Until next time, may all the books you read be blessed, and happy holidays.